Welcome back to our channel. But don't just scroll away, because what you're about to hear is not just a business story. This is a life story. A story of a boy who grew up in pain, who watched his father suffer, who lived in broken apartments, and walked through life feeling invisible. And yet, he went on to build one of the most loved brands on earth. Not just a coffee shop, but a brand that changed how the world starts its day. And no, he wasn't born rich. No, he didn't have connections. No, he didn't even found a company he would one day transform. He was laughed at, rejected, and told, no one will ever pay $3 for a cup of coffee. He heard no not once, not 10 times, but 217 times. And still he did it. His name is Howard Schultz. And this is the story of how he turned a painful childhood into a billion-dollar brand, how he transformed coffee and culture, and how rejection became the fuel that made him unstoppable. And yes, while you listen, you're also improving your English because we use clear, emotional, beginner-friendly storytelling that helps you learn new words, real-life lessons, and become fluent through stories. So, grab your coffee or your dreams, because this isn't just a story you'll remember. This is a story that might change your life. Part 1. The Boy Who Grew Up in Pain. Brooklyn, New York, 1953. Howard Schultz was born into a world where dreams were small because life was hard. He grew up in the Bayview Housing Projects, a government housing project in a rough Brooklyn neighborhood where people survived paycheck to paycheck. His father was a delivery driver. No big job, no stability, no health insurance. One day, he slipped on ice and injured his hip badly. And you know what happened? Nothing. No medical help, no compensation, no support, no voice. Howard watched his father, a strong man, become broken and hopeless overnight. He watched him sit on the couch, jobless, depressed, and filled with shame. There was no one to help, no one to care. Howard would later say, "That moment changed me. I saw what it meant to be a number, not a person. I promised myself if I ever build a company, it would honor people, not crush them." He was just a boy, but that pain stayed in his soul. They were so poor, Howard used to feel embarrassed to bring friends home. He had no room of his own, no luxury, not even enough clothes sometimes. He said, "When you're that poor, you never forget it. Poverty leaves a shadow." But this shadow didn't kill him. It lit a fire inside him. Howard had no path laid out for success, but he had one superpower: determination. He played sports. He worked odd jobs. He sold newspapers. He saved money. And against all odds, he became the first in his family to go to college. But even that wasn't easy. He didn't go to Harvard. He went to Northern Michigan University on a football scholarship and worked as a bartender and salesman to pay for school. After college, he started working as a salesman for Xerox, one of the best sales training companies at that time. He was good, very good, but Howard wanted more. One day, he joined a small kitchenware company. His job: sell coffee machines to local cafes. And that's when something unexpected happened. While analyzing sales reports, he noticed one small client in Seattle kept buying more machines than anyone else. He was curious, so he flew there to find out why. The company was called Starbucks. At that time, it had just 4 stores, and it didn't even sell coffee to drink, just beans, grinders, and equipment. But there was something about the people, the energy, the philosophy. Howard fell in love. He said, "There was something magical about Starbucks. I saw more than coffee. I saw warmth, authenticity, and culture." And in that moment, a seed was planted. He quit his job. He joined Starbucks, but he had no idea that this small decision would lead to the biggest battle of his life. Howard Schultz had seen pain. He had felt invisible. He had been poor, hopeless, and humiliated. But he also had a dream: to build something better than what his father had, to build a company that respected people. And he had just found the perfect soil: Starbucks. What he didn't know yet was that the very people he admired would soon turn down his biggest idea. They would say, "That's not who we are." But Howard Schultz was no ordinary man. He didn't just sell coffee. He was about to sell a new way of life. Part 2. The coffee that became a culture. Howard Schultz had joined Starbucks, a small company in Seattle. He was not the owner. He was not rich. He was just an employee. But inside him, something bigger was growing: a vision that nobody else could see. In 1983, Starbucks sent Howard to Milan, Italy, for a trade show. It was supposed to be a short business trip, but what he discovered there changed the direction of his life. As he walked through the streets of Milan, something caught his heart. There were espresso bars on every corner, busy, vibrant, full of people. But they weren't just drinking coffee. They were talking, laughing, sharing moments, connecting. The baristas knew people by name. Customers didn't just come for coffee. They came for experience, emotion, and community. Howard stood there, speechless. It was like stepping into a new world. This is it, he thought. This is what America doesn't have. We don't have this culture, this experience, this feeling. He didn't see coffee. He saw warmth. He saw belonging. He saw something human. When he returned to Seattle, Howard walked into the Starbucks office on fire with excitement. He told the founders, "We need to open coffee bars, not just sell beans. Let people drink the coffee here. Let's create that Italian espresso culture right here in America." He was excited. He was confident. He was ready to build something new. But then came the answer that broke him. The founders of Starbucks, Jerry Baldwin, Zev Siegel, and Gordon Boker, listened quietly. Then they said, "No, that's not who we are. We sell coffee beans, not serve drinks." They didn't believe Americans would ever go for it. They thought people wouldn't pay $2 or $3 for a cup of coffee. They thought it was too risky, too strange. Howard was stunned. This was his moment, his dream, his mission, and it was crushed. Howard didn't argue. He didn't scream. But inside he knew, if they won't do it, I have to do it myself. And so, with nothing but belief, Howard made the biggest decision of his life. He would leave Starbucks to start his own coffee bar. Howard was heartbroken. He loved Starbucks, but his dream was bigger than loyalty. So in 1985, he quit. He decided to start a company called Il Giornale, named after an Italian newspaper. But he had no money. He had to raise funds to start. Howard believed in his idea. He thought investors would too. But what happened? Rejection. After rejection. After rejection. He would walk into meetings full of passion and walk out to closed doors. Americans won't pay $3 for coffee. You're not Italian. This won't work here. You're dreaming too big. He was laughed at, ignored, and insulted. He said, "I was rejected 217 times. That number is burned into my brain." But he kept going day after day, meeting after meeting, pitch after pitch, until, finally, 30 investors said yes. He raised $400,000 and, in 1986, opened his first coffee bar in Seattle. It wasn't just a coffee shop. It was a love letter to Italy. Howard made sure everything felt different. Italian music played softly in the background. Baristas remembered your name. You didn't just buy coffee. You had an experience. And guess what? People loved it. They didn't care that it was new. They didn't care about the price. They came for the feeling. Il Giornale became an instant hit. Howard proved them wrong. While Il Giornale was booming, something unexpected happened. The founders of Starbucks, the very people who said no, decided to sell the company. They were moving on. Starbucks was too small for them now. Howard saw a chance. A big one. A dangerous one. A dream that had once been denied to him was now up for sale. But there was a problem. In 1987, Howard found out the price. To buy Starbucks, he needed $3.8 million. That's about $10 million today. And Howard didn't have that kind of money. He was still small, still building. But this wasn't just a business move for him. This was personal. This was his dream. So once again, he went back in a battle. He talked to every investor he could find. He begged, he pitched, he cried. He told them, "This is not just a coffee company. This is my life's purpose." Finally, after weeks of effort, he raised the money. And in August 1987, at age 34, Howard Schultz bought Starbucks for $3.8 million. He didn't just buy the company. He bought back his vision. Part 3. The Comeback of a Broken Dream. It's 2008. Starbucks is in trouble. The global economy is falling apart. The world is entering a financial crisis. People are losing their jobs. Families are cutting their spending. And suddenly, for dollar coffee no longer feels like a small treat. It feels like a luxury they can't afford. Sales drop. Customer visits fall. Store traffic slows. Starbucks, once a symbol of modern culture, is now seen as overpriced, overrated, and overexpanded. And the numbers are brutal. In 1 year, the stock falls from $40 to under $8. The company loses over $6 billion in value. Store closures begin. Hundreds of locations shut down. Thousands of employees are laid off. Morale collapses inside the company. The magic is gone. And behind the scenes, one man is watching, heartbroken. Howard Schultz is no longer CEO. He stepped down in 2000, but he remained chairman, watching from a distance. He visits stores and feels a sharp pain in his chest. "This is not what I built," he whispers. He sees dirty floors, distracted baristas, empty chairs, and customers who feel rushed and invisible. Everything he stood for, connection, experience, emotion, is fading fast. And then one day, the board of directors comes to him and says, "Howard, we need you back." It's January 2008. Howard Schultz, now 54 years old, steps back in as CEO of Starbucks. But this time, it's different. He's not coming back to lead a celebration. He's coming back to save a dying dream. And he knows the truth. This will be the hardest fight of his life. The world is in crisis. The media doubts him. The company is collapsing. And worse, the culture is broken. But Howard doesn't hide. He steps in with fire in his eyes and says to his team, "We are not in the coffee business serving people. We are in the people business serving coffee, and we've forgotten that." Howard begins with radical decisions. He closes 900 stores across the U.S. and abroad, not because they didn't make money, but because they didn't reflect the brand's soul. He fires thousands of employees. It breaks his heart, but he knows if they don't cut now, they may not survive. He halts all new store openings. Growth is paused. Focus returns to quality. He cuts his own salary to $1 to send a message. "This is not about me. This is about saving us." He retrains every single barista. Howard shuts down all 7,000 stores in the U.S. for one day. It costs millions of dollars in lost revenue, but to him, it's worth it. That day, every Starbucks partner goes through espresso retraining. Howard says, "We're not just fixing technique. We're bringing back pride." Howard focuses on restoring the magic. Better espresso machines for consistency and flavor. No more microwave sandwiches. The smell ruined the coffee aroma. More focus on eye contact, conversation, and personalization, and redesigning stores, making them feel like real third spaces again. He also introduces new ideas: free Wi-Fi in all locations, mobile ordering for faster service, and a Starbucks Rewards app, which becomes one of the most successful loyalty apps in the world. Howard also begins to shift Starbucks into a force for good. He increases investment in fair trade coffee, supporting small farmers in Latin America and Africa, ethical sourcing, ensuring farmers are paid fairly, sustainability, reducing waste, and promoting recycling, a diversity and inclusion, hiring more veterans, minorities, and refugees. He says, "Success is empty if you're not lifting others with you." And Starbucks becomes more than a coffee company again. It becomes a brand that stands for something bigger. By 2010, the world sees something incredible. Starbucks rises again. Here are the results. Revenue climbs back to $11.7 billion. Net income grows to $946 million. Stock price recovers to over $30. Customer traffic increases. Employee satisfaction rises. Brand trust is restored. From Wall Street to Main Street, people say the same thing. Howard Schultz saved Starbucks. But more than numbers, something else returns. The aroma of real coffee, the sound of soft music, the sight of baristas smiling again, the energy of connection inside stores. The Starbucks experience is alive once more. Howard walks into a store in Brooklyn, not far from where he grew up. He sees a young barista hand a cup to an old man, smile, and say, "This one's on me today, sir. You always brighten our day." Howard smiles. That, he says, is what it's all about. Part 4. The Final Cup. Legacy of a dreamer who never gave up. It's 2017. Starbucks has fully recovered. The brand is stronger than ever. It has over 25,000 stores across the world, a market value of over $80 billion, over 300,000 employees, one of the most recognized logos on the planet, customers in more than 70 countries, and a stock price that has grown by thousands of percent since its IPO. The Starbucks app is one of the most used mobile payment platforms in the U.S., even beating Apple Pay in some markets. But more than numbers, Starbucks has become a global habit, a part of people's lives. From students to CEOs, from Tokyo to Toronto, from Mumbai to Miami, people walk in, speak their drink out loud, and feel heard, seen, and valued. By now, Howard Schultz is in his early 60s. He often walks into stores quietly, unannounced. Sometimes he watches a single mother working on her laptop, sipping a latte. Sometimes he sees a homeless man being handed a warm coffee by a smiling barista. And sometimes he hears the sound of laughter, music, and peace. And he thinks, this is exactly what I dreamed of. Not a product, but a place of feeling. He didn't want to build the biggest coffee company. He wanted to build the most human. And he did. Let's pause for a moment and look at the scale of what Howard built. Metric then, 1987. Now, 2017. Stores 625,000 plus. Revenue $5 million per year, over $22 billion per year. Employees, a few dozen, over 300,000. Countries 1, U.S., over 70. Company value, $3.8 million, over $80 billion. Export to Sheetz. All this from a man who grew up in public housing, who saw his father suffer and promised he'd never let workers feel unseen again. In 2017, Howard Schultz once again stepped down as CEO, this time on his own terms. He said, "It's time for a new generation to lead, but I'm not leaving. I'm just passing the torch." He handed the leadership to Kevin Johnson, a former tech executive and longtime Starbucks board member. Howard remained chairman, still involved, still passionate, but no longer in daily operations. But Howard didn't retire to relax. Instead, he turned his energy towards social impact, human rights, veteran employment, helping underserved communities, and fixing the American dream. He launched initiatives to hire over 10,000 military veterans, offer free college education to Starbucks employees through partnerships, provide employment to refugees and disadvantaged youth, and advocate for racial and economic equity. Howard believed that companies have a responsibility bigger than profit. We're not in business to make money alone. We are in business to elevate humanity. Most people don't know this, but Howard's desire to care for employees, build a warm company, and serve people with dignity came from personal pain. His father, Fred Schultz, was a delivery truck driver. One day, he slipped on ice and injured his hip. He was fired. No compensation, no support, no respect. Howard was only 7 years old at the time. He never forgot how his father sat at home, broken both in body and in spirit. "I saw what happens when workers are invisible," he said. Starbucks became the answer to that pain. So he built a company where even a part-time barista got health care, stock options, education, and dignity. In 2019, Howard announced he was exploring a run for president of the United States. Why? Because he believed that leadership meant service, not power. He wanted to bring the same human-first philosophy he used at Starbucks into the political world. Although he eventually dropped the idea, the message was clear. I was a poor kid from the projects. I built something that touched the world. So why not use that experience to heal even bigger things? Today, Howard Schultz is retired from Starbucks, but the culture he built still lives on in every smiling barista, every warm cup of coffee, every customer who sits and feels at peace, every employee who is called a partner, not a worker. Every morning ritual that begins with a name written on a cup. He turned coffee into connection. He turned a commodity into a community. And he showed the world that you can build a billion-dollar company without losing your soul. We can learn from Howard Schultz. Your past does not define your future. A poor boy from the projects can build a global brand. Rejection is not the end, it's the beginning. Howard was rejected 217 times before someone believed in him. Led with your heart, not just your head. Profit is important, but people are everything. Your business is your legacy. Every decision you make leaves a mark on someone's life. Success means nothing if your people feel invisible. Howard built a company to heal the pain he saw in his father's eyes. Howard once said, "Dream more than others think practical. Care more than others think wise. Expect more than others think possible. And don't be afraid to be the only one who believes." He believed, and because he believed, today, over 100 million people walk into Starbucks stores every week. Not just for coffee, but for comfort, connection, and a small piece of hope. And it all started with a boy who had nothing except a dream and a reason to never give up. This is the end of the Starbucks story, but this should be the beginning of your story. Maybe you have no money. Maybe your family never believed in you. Maybe you feel invisible. But remember this, if Howard Schultz could do it, so can you. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for comfort. Don't wait for the world to clap. Start now. Build. Believe. Begin. Because your dream matters. And one more thing, this story wasn't just about coffee. It was about life, leadership, love, and legacy. It was told in simple English so that anyone, anywhere in the world, can understand it and feel inspired. So if you learned something today, if you felt something today, then share it. Because maybe someone out there needs to hear this story more than you can imagine. Thank you for listening. Thank you for dreaming. And thank you for believing.